November 2024, writing the story. I am a novelist. I write stories about women of African heritage who are flawed heroes, imperfect protagonists. And because I write flawed Black women, I will be voting for Kamala Harris. I would rather vote for a presidential candidate who was much further to the left, but only in an election that they could actually win. I would rather vote for a presidential candidate who vowed to cut off military aid to any nation that brazenly used that aid to brutalize families. And I want us to get there in my lifetime. So we have work to do and movements to build and visions of freedom to fight to make real. This is about us. We are the heroes of this story. And in this presidential election, we're not electing a leader. We are electing an opponent. We are choosing the terrain on which we want to fight to build the world we want. And the vote between neoliberal Democrats and MAGA Republicans is simple to me. In the next 4 years, do I want to be fighting for freedom or fighting for our very survival? I want to fight for freedom in a functioning democracy, to fight for human rights while there's still an infrastructure to support basic civil rights. And as near as I can see, the path to freedom will require at least 4 more years of neoliberalism, which is a bitter pill to swallow. Because neoliberalism is also hard to survive, and many do not survive. People in police custody and jail, people in Gaza, people on the front lines of the climate crisis, so many people. But we can't be naive here. We are going to lose people. But that doesn't mean that we lose hope, that we lose perspective. We need to hold a vision beyond survival with the resources we have, with the power we have. And when it comes to making do without much, I turn to the old folks' ways, flawed Black women protagonists in my lineage who knew how to work with what they had. In the Black community, a baby girl would be born, and sometimes they would pierce her ears. They had a vision of giving her gold earrings, even though they couldn't afford any earrings, y'all. But they pierced her ears with the hope that someday they would have something golden for her. They would light a match, take a piece of broom straw, burn it to sterilize it, then put it in the ear to keep the piercing open and stave off infection. Listen, y'all, the Democratic Party is that burnt straw and MAGA is that infection. The Democrats will try to convince you that neoliberalism is a gold earring, the best earring, that it will dangle like a diamond and catch the light. But we know that the Democratic Party is just a piece of burnt straw. It's not about the lesser evils. We are not electing the evil we will passively tolerate. It's about the less heavily armed opponent. We are electing the opponent we are going to fight to create the world we want. Many of us are despairing, angry. It's outrageous to work as hard as we've worked, whether it's our organizing for justice or just laboring at the jobs we've held, and have so little to show for it. It might make us feel small and furious and like our only power is the power to not participate at all. On the other hand, some of us are excited about Kamala. My anti-imperialist mind warns me against her, reminds me of my political disappointment in Obama, climate chances missed, and children in cages. But for Kamala, my Black girl heart loves her sharp tongue, her Howard University pedigree, her stance for gender justice, and her laugh. I see her as a flawed woman of joy. And unlike my naivete with Obama, I'm ready this time. Our movements are ready. We know we need to keep organizing and let go of our magical thinking about a Black face in a White House. I know she will deeply disappoint me because she represents a party that has deeply disappointed my people for ages. Yes, this two-party system is so broken. Many of us feel betrayed by the Democratic Party, and that's fair. But we can't let disgust and hurt keep us from our path to freedom. We can't move the nation to the left of the Dems if we cede power of the government to the Republican far right. In this precarious moment, some of us are flinching now for the blow. We are clenching in preparation for the attack. I don't mean contingency planning. I mean post-traumatic stress. We have known fascism. Whether it was in our childhood homes or schools or churches or workplaces or in our own relationships, we have known what it was to live under violent dictatorships where we had to settle for subtle or silent rebellion. And we may think that if we survived it before, we can survive it again, but another way is possible. The story is not written yet. You are not a child anymore. Stand to your full adult height and decide to contest for power. Cede not an inch of ground to MAGA. Light this match. Burn that straw. Pierce your hopelessness. Stave off the infection of fascism. In these final days, take whatever action you can to get Kamala Harris elected president. Not because this flawed Black woman will determine our story, but because a Harris presidency can keep the way open for our movements as protagonists. We are writing the story of our people gaining the power. I pray that when we look back at this moment, we see it was now that thousands, if not millions of people decided to fight, and that we decided to keep fighting until we won it all. In the tradition of my ancestors, Black women who used burnt straw as a placeholder, bringing the hope of the gold earrings for that baby girl in the future. In the tradition of Black women who spent their lives working to make their dreams a reality, let us use this burnt straw strategy to elect the set of conditions in which our movements will do our work to make the changes we know we need to make in climate, in racial and gender and economic justice, in international human rights. We don't have a lot of time, but these are changes that we can make. So that's my provocation to you, 2024. Vote burnt straw.